The collet lathe is unique because of its use of collets to hold the workpiece. Using a collet allows us to clamp onto smaller parts and also quickly clamp and unclamp them, making the collet lathe a good option while making a number of small parts. The collet lathes use a 5C collet, which has threads on the outer diameter. On the mill, we use an R8 collet seen here. The R8 collet does not have the outer threads the 5C collet has. To visualize how the collet lathe works, we can use this collet block. As the collet enters the block, the threads poke out the back. A nut screws onto these threads, and at a certain point, the nut starts pulling the tapered end of the collet through the block, which tightens the collet. The lathe works the same way as the collet block. It uses a drawbar, a nut with a retaining lock, and a spindle lock. But first, we need to pick out the proper sized collet for our part. Using a set of calipers, my part measured 3/4 of an inch. Each lathe has its own collection of collets. Here's the 3/4 inch collet, and we'll confirm with the part that it fits. The part should easily slide in and out, but not have a whole lot of room to spare. This one looks good, so we'll move on. The collet features a keyway which will need to be aligned with the key inside the spindle. Now place the part into the collet and pull the drawbar inwards. We'll start to twist the nut to try to thread onto the 5C collet. It might be tricky to get the thread started, but remember, the drawbar needs to be pulled inwards. Once they catch, the collet will begin moving down into the spindle, and pushing the drawbar outwards will pull on the collet, locking the part in place. Continue tightening the nut while pushing the drawbar out. Eventually, the collet will tighten enough that the drawbar will not snap out. At this point, slightly loosen the nut until the drawbar will pop outwards again. When set properly, the drawbar should make a nice snap. Now lock the nut in place using the key and spline like you can see here. So we're fully set up and we'll now turn on the machine. The power switch is located on the side. Disengage the E-stop button and press start. The DRO will begin its startup sequence. The DRO is operated using the touchscreen. You can easily switch between metric and English, and also tap on the position to type in whatever value you desire. To start the spindle, start by disengaging the E-stop, setting the dials to 0, and selecting the forward direction. Make sure the spindle lock is disengaged at this point. Now use the bottom lever to turn on and off the spindle, and this dial to change the RPM. Continue using this bottom lever to start and stop the spindle. The other one is used for threading. We'll now remove the collet by repeating the same steps in reverse. First, unlock the nut, then lock the spindle, and begin loosening the collet by spinning the nut. Note that the drawbar must be all the way in for the nut to unscrew the collet. Once the collet stops moving, pop the drawbar and the collet should fall right out. Before leaving the machine, Turn the power off using the E-stop and main power switch on the side of the machine.